To the world, Michael Jackson was a global icon, beloved, worshipped, larger than life. But the brighter the star, the darker the shadow they cast. Some fans didn't just admire him, they hunted him. Obsessed women who believed they were his wives, the mothers of his children, and that he had wronged them in unspeakable ways. They broke into his homes, stalked him across continents, dragged him into court with outrageous claims, and camped outside his gates for years. This is the chilling account of three such fans: Denise Pfeiffer, Lavon Powlis, and Michelle Flowers, whose obsession for the global icon turned Michael Jackson's life into a living nightmare. Denise Pfeiffer, a former bank clerk from Broughton Astley in Leicestershire, became infamously known as Michael Jackson's most obsessive fan. Her fascination with the pop superstar began when she was just 12 years old. She idolized Jackson not just for his music and dancing, but for what she believed was a shared emotional core. "We both love children and animals, and we care about the planet," she once said, convinced they had a lot in common. Denise didn't just admire Jackson, she constructed her identity around him. People say, "I'm obsessed," but what's obsession? It can be something dangerous, or it can just mean that you think about someone all the time, and I do think about Michael a lot. Her devotion was not casual. Denise spent around $40,000 following Jackson around the globe. During his dangerous tour, she attended almost every single one of the nearly 70 dates, spanning continents and sleeping at Heathrow Airport just to catch a glimpse of him. She was almost run over by his limousine, crushed at the front of his concerts, and once even bluffed her way into his hotel room in Frankfurt, Germany, where she spent an hour and a half talking to him. Jackson, she claimed, affectionately called her Wendy after Peter Pan's companion. Despite having never had a boyfriend, she admitted, "My dream is to marry him. There'd be an empty space which just couldn't be filled if he were to marry someone else." But in 1993, Denise's fantasy world began to crack. When 14-year-old Jordie Chandler accused Michael Jackson of sexual abuse, Denise took the allegations as a personal attack. Convinced the Chandler family was motivated by greed, she flew from Leicester to Los Angeles in early 1994 to confront them. "I just wanted to get the family to drop the charges, to get them to tell the truth," she explained. Her attempt at confrontation spiraled into criminal behavior. She spray-painted graffiti in red outside the Beverly Hills dental office of Evan Chandler, Jordie's father, and left obscene and threatening phone messages. She also stole office keys and tried to break into the family's home. Her actions led to her arrest on April 10, 1994. Denise was jailed in the Sybil Brandt facility on the outskirts of Los Angeles and held on a $15,000 bond. She spent 6 days in conditions she later described as a nightmare. The conditions were horrendous. The place was overcrowded. There were bloodstains on my cell wall. I was strip-searched, forced to use primitive toilet facilities, and was handcuffed to convicted killers, she recalled. After a few days, I just wanted to kill myself. I couldn't take it. I was so scared about what Michael would think. I wanted to die in prison. Her plight attracted international attention, and in an unexpected twist, British actress Lynn Redgrave came to her aid. Deeply moved by Denise's story, Redgrave put up the $10,000 bail needed to secure her release. "She rescued me from that hellhole before I lost my sanity," said Denise, expressing profound gratitude to the actress. "When I spoke to her following my release, she told me she had helped because I was a fellow Briton in distress." In court, Denise initially pleaded not guilty, but later changed her plea in a deal that saw her accept guilt for petty theft and vandalism. In exchange, the more serious charge of harassment was dropped. She was sentenced to 3 years probation and given 2 6-month suspended jail terms. Beverly Hills Municipal Court Judge Eldon Fox also ordered her to stay away from Jackson, the Chandler family, and their associates. Her lawyer confirmed that Denise would return to England, though she was required to register with probation officials if she ever returned to the U.S. After returning home, Denise reflected bitterly on her experience. "I've been to hell and back," she said. "It was the worst 6 days of my life." Her suffering in prison and Jackson's silence throughout her ordeal shattered the illusion she had built around him. "I realized he never cared about me, and that made me more depressed than ever before," she confessed. "Michael used to rule everything. I'm a much happier person now because I've got my own life." Trying to rebuild that life, Denise turned toward her other dream, music. "It has always been my dream to become a pop star," she said. "I have been writing songs since I was 12, but they were mostly love songs and ballads inspired by Michael Jackson. Now I want to become a success with my own writing and music." Though once Jackson's self-proclaimed #1 fan, Denise's feelings had fully soured. When Jackson appeared online for a fan Q&A, Denise tried to reach out from Leicester's cyber cafe, but received no reply. "Michael Jackson now makes me want to scream with rage," she admitted, announcing firmly that he was history. Lavon Powlis. In what could only be described as a real-life embodiment of Michael Jackson's haunting 1983 hit, Billie Jean, Lavon Powlis, also known under aliases such as Lavon Muhammad, Gabriella Jamila, and most notably Billie Jean Jackson, launched herself into infamy in 1987. That year, as Jackson was preparing to release his Bad album, Powlis filed a $150 million paternity lawsuit, declaring that she and the singer had a 6-year affair, were secretly engaged, and had conceived 3 children together, including 5-year-old twins and an 11-year-old son. "Michael asked me to marry him on September 13, 1985, she claimed. "I said yes, of course." The children, she said, were conceived in a blue Rolls-Royce parked outside Jackson's Los Angeles home. "Michael got me pregnant, and I want Michael to pay for it," she stated. She explained she had waited to file the lawsuit because Michael and I were going to get married and take care of it quietly. Her lawsuit, however, was quickly met with ridicule. Jackson's publicist, Lee Solters, dismissed the allegations as ridiculous and preposterous. A welfare agency revealed that Powlis had previously named other celebrities as the father of her children, and 2 of the children had been found abandoned in a black Muslim mosque in Chicago. Despite these revelations, Powlis, then 39 years old, remained unshaken. She had even legally changed her name to Billie Jean Jackson, a symbolic nod to the song she claimed was about her. But this paternity suit was not her first brush with the king of pop. By the time of the 1987 lawsuit, Lavon had already spent 4 years harassing Jackson, loitering near his Encino estate, and billing his name at high-end boutiques. In May 1986, she was convicted of trespassing, received 36 months probation, and Jackson obtained a restraining order. Yet only months later, in September 1986, she trespassed again, was sentenced to 52 days in jail, and placed on 2 more years probation. Her obsession only escalated. In January 1988, 5 months after the paternity suit, which was later dismissed for lack of evidence, Lavon was back in court for violating her restraining order. That year, she tried to bill a wedding dress to Jackson, charged $145 in medical expenses to his name, and was arrested at 3 a.m. with a bottle of champagne in his backyard, having scaled a 5-foot wall. Her lawyer admitted that jail wouldn't stop her. She feels like Michael wants her on the property, that she's supposed to be there. Refusing a mental health evaluation. "I don't require mental health care, sir," she told the judge. Powlis was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. The judge even quoted lyrics from Jackson's song, "Leave Me Alone," during sentencing. "Just stop dogging me, girl." But the saga didn't end there. In 1995, now going by Gabriella Jamila Jackson, Lavon was sentenced to 99 days in jail after once again trespassing at Jackson's home on 3 separate occasions, each time claiming to be his wife. As part of her sentence, she was barred from contacting or approaching Jackson or any of his family. Her fixation persisted well into the 2000s. In 2008, she resurfaced in court, claiming to be the mother of Jackson's youngest son, Blanket, and demanded $1 billion in child support and custody rights. In addition to the capitalized $1 billion, she requested visitation rights every weekend and influence over his education. Her explanation for not having the child in her custody: "I was pregnant, and Michael took him," she told the judge. "If we took DNA tests, that would prove it. I'm the mother. I'm Michael's wife. There was a marriage. I don't want to tell you in open court about it because it sounds like a miracle. Michael sings to me on his album." When asked for any proof of this supposed biological link, she could provide none. The judge denied her petition and urged her to seek psychiatric help. She reportedly stood in silence, absorbing the reality that her decades-long delusion had finally reached its end. The light in her eyes went out. She had lost more than $1 billion. Michelle Flowers. In 1994, a 31-year-old Californian woman made allegations against Michael Jackson public by launching a paternity and child support lawsuit against the superstar. She demanded a palatial mansion and $20 million per year in support for her then 10-year-old son, whom she insisted was the result of Jackson's alleged assault. In court, she complained bitterly about her financial condition, saying she and her son were living on welfare while Jackson earned an estimated $10 million a month. According to Flowers, she met Jackson in 1982 when she was living with her husband in a Compton hotel for the homeless. She alleged that the world-famous pop star was staying on another floor of the same hotel. "I fed him out of concern for his miserable condition," she later told the court. She claimed Jackson began hanging around her room preaching religion and soon began molesting her sexually. Her story grew more dramatic. Jackson, allegedly in various disguises, attempted to kidnap her, and later used religion to influence and impregnate her without her consent, leading to the birth of her son 10 months later. By October 1991, Flowers had obtained a restraining order against Michael Jackson, stating he had raped her at a New Year's Eve party and continued to harass her. She told the court Jackson would sneak into her neighborhood in disguise to torment and threaten her. She also accused him of attempting to control her life from the shadows. None of her claims were supported by any physical evidence or corroborating testimony. Jackson, through his attorney Kenneth Cochran, denied ever meeting Flowers and stated plainly that he was not the father. Cochran called the legal action part of a vendetta, and Flowers herself a vexatious litigant out to harass the singer. According to Cochran, she had already filed 5 different legal actions against Jackson, 4 of which had been dismissed. To settle the paternity issue, blood and DNA tests were conducted in 1994. The results clearly showed that Jackson was not the father of James Allen Hall Jr., Flowers' son. In fact, the tests indicated there was a more than 99% chance the boy's father was Flowers' former husband, James Allen Hall Sr. Still, Flowers rejected the results. The samples might have been tainted, like I'm sure they were with O.J., she insisted, referencing the famous O.J. Simpson trial. Unwilling to accept the ruling, she demanded a 3rd round of genetic testing, which the court denied. Judge Glenn Ritchie Jr. dismissed her motion, declared Jackson not the father, and barred Flowers from filing any more lawsuits against Jackson without court approval. Despite the clear court ruling, Flowers continued her crusade. She claimed Jackson continued to harass her, saying that he disguised himself to appear in her neighborhood. Her lawsuits evolved into accusations of sexual assault and psychological manipulation. She maintained, in yet another case, that Jackson impregnated her without her consent or knowledge. An allegation she first raised in the 1991 restraining order and later restated during the paternity suit. Years later, during Jackson's 2005 criminal trial, the story took an unexpected turn. In an unverified online statement, Flowers, now speaking publicly after years of litigation, recanted her accusations. Anyone who believes that Michael Jackson is a child molester is either a crackhead or has a crack in their head. All the allegations are all lies and fabrications, concocted and twisted from unsubstantiated allegations I made against Mr. Jackson. She confessed that she had no right to file court documents in the first place, admitting there was absolutely no violence from Michael Jackson towards my children or me at any time. She claimed the relationship had been consensual and romantic. It was wrong for me to complain years later about something that happened between us that was actually wonderfully spectacular and spiritually miraculous. I love him. This statement, if genuine, reflected a dramatic shift in her narrative, a transformation from accuser to defender, from litigant to alleged lover. It contradicted over a decade of courtroom filings, public claims, and paternity demands that put the global superstar through hell and back. For Michael Jackson, these women weren't just overzealous admirers. They became relentless forces of chaos. Each story is a reminder that fame can attract not just love, but delusion. Whether it was Denise Pfeiffer's descent into criminal devotion, Lavon Powlis' decades-long delusion of being his secret wife, or Michelle Flowers' shifting tale of cosmic love and courtroom retractions, one thing is painfully clear. Michael Jackson wasn't just a pop star. He was a magnet for obsession. And in the shadows of his brilliance, that obsession sometimes turned terrifyingly real. For a man who sang "Leave Me Alone" and "Billie Jean," these weren't just lyrics. They were desperate pleas from someone trapped in a nightmare spun by the very people who claimed to love him most. Fandom made Michael Jackson a legend, but it was obsession that nearly destroyed him.